Good morning, Pat Winter here. I wanted to share with you my latest journal, which coincides with the Haberdashery Sisters journal. This is also part 2, basically. It's from the sisters during their schooling and such. They kept this journal. It's got their snippets, their samples, and receipts and just things that they've collected during their schooling in France before they opened their haberdashery. So it is a hardcover journal, 4 signatures. It has, I trimmed it out in a layered velvet and lace trim. And I printed off a couple images from Graphics Fairy, the subscription site, of the book back and the spine. And the front, I just made up something. I took a digital card and just put a title on it, which is French sewing students. And then I added some metal corners and some vintage French metallic trim. And to the closure is another bracelet closure, which I like to use for gator mouths. So I'm not completely finished with the tabs and the little, I'm going to add like some sewing, like a tiny thimble and sewing machine and scissors and probably some pearls and stuff to the tabs when I'm finished completely. But for now, I had time today, so I thought I would go ahead and do a share. So under the first cover, I have some samples, some vintage lace and some painted lace, bridal lace, and a piece of dotted Swiss. And if anyone has a source for the really sheer old-fashioned dotted Swiss, I would love to hear from you. I've been looking for it, but this is the closest I can get, which will pass nicely, but I'd really like the sheer. Anyway, so I've used several kits in this journal, and I will post them upon request, but because this is not a project for any specific seller, I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'm just going to go through it. So I used the paste, actually the light airy spackle I used as with a stencil to get the, oh my goodness, I can't talk today, to get the effect, the raised effect. Can't think of the word. Anyway, I put in several tuck spots. I may have overdone it in this one, but I had fun collaging them, and used some vintage laces just like as samples that the girls have collected, the sisters. And there's a lot of cards, like these are just printed paper fabric samples. And this is a real lace, embroidered lace, which is just gorgeous. I don't know if you can see that. And then a little envelope with some printed hankies, which you could journal on. And this is another tab, layered tab, which I left for pockets. And just some vintage pieces of crochet, journaling cards, and a little secret spot to write some secret notes, and some more little pieces of, this must have been, people must have been practicing, because a friend had given me several little bits that have been finished, not cut apart, like the women had started just to practice a piece to see what they wanted to do as far as edges. And I love this paper. It's just, it's printed and then the edges are all torn, so I just tore it and aged it. And I have a few of those in here because they look so old. And this is some handmade paper, vintage lace trim. And another altered tag, or layered. Some nice large journaling cards on each side. That's been backed and sewn. A receipt, little belly band, some airmail paper that I had printed on. Here's just a little pocket for some journaling cards and some little tidbits of trims and lace. And this is just a printed fashion, from a fashion magazine. And here's some more. Oh, that's just a journaling card. And this is a little sample of a beautiful silk fabric that I had bought from a shop on Etsy a few years ago. And the pockets and some of the belly bands, they look like lace pieces. I thought that would be cute in here. And this was an envelope that I just left open and just folded it for journaling space. And here's a button card with some vintage mother pearl buttons. There's, as you can see, I used a lot of the Sam Pool kit, haberdashery kit, again throughout this book. And this is just a little journaling card, well, large journaling card with another of the oh my goodness, collaged corner tucks, and some more of the printed paper, like the dotted Swiss sample cards I found on Etsy. Just a little piece of paper here. And some more little samples. That's an old lining of a blouse. I thought that was very pretty. And some more of that paper. Just a fold out of a wallpaper sample, but I'm going to pretend it's fabric. And here's another of those pretty little lace snippets. And this envelope was actually printed. They give you a front and a back, and then you just glue the sides together. And I filled it with checks from the girls' purchases through the years, which you can journal on the back. And some more airmail paper. It's like rice paper, so if you get your hands on rice paper, it's basically the same thing. Rice paper is much easier to obtain. And here's a belly band from one of the kits that this was based on. And just a pretty French lady journaling card, another piece of the airmail paper. And this is a paper clip, which I found some French sewing words in one of the shops, and printed out a few and rough cut it and used it as a dangle. And just paper clipped a few of these embroidered hankies for journaling cards. And this is just a piece of the airmail paper printed on one side, you could write on the other, and a journaling card of the buttons sewn around and backed. And these are some samples that you could write on the back. Another little corner tuck. And these are, I printed some images on the satin sticker paper. So you can use it as a washi tape and still get like a translucent appearance. And here's a large card, sample card with a piece of pretty lace and a map of France and a little tape measure as a belly band with just a couple blank pretty pieces of paper. And another little collaged pocket, which I have to dangle something from, as well as the other side. And here's some more of those bits of, it's a download, and it's just bits of torn papers and stuff. And I love using them. And I print them on cardstock because they work nicely as little notes for dates, special dates or something. It's just a nice tiny little thing where you don't have to mess a whole page with one date. And these are printed fabric samples. There's just several tucked in there. And they're all torn and such. And at the top, the more bits of the printables. Looks like torn papers. And a nice long journaling card. And the same on the other side. Pieces of fabric samples that the girls may have purchased. Tucked in this pocket. And I just put little mother of pearl buttons on a piece of a music sheet. And some nice thin paper that you could write on the back. They just look like old documents. Another belly band. And some image fabric or wallpaper images, actually. And another flip. I kind of went crazy with the air mail paper flips. Journaling cards, a little sample of fabrics, more of the other samples, and a piece of embossed cardstock, which I just used as a tuck spot or a pocket. And this is actually, I printed this off because I love Miss Rose, Sister Violet. This is their header, and I love their paper, their header. So I printed it and put it in here with a paper clip and just another of the vintage hankies, embroidered hankies. And in this pocket, I just put several small cards that you could journal on the back with special notes, dates. Yeah, I went crazy with the collage tucks and with the airmail paper. And a little shallow pocket with a big piece of sewing ephemera paper to write on, and a picture photo of members of the sewing school, we're going to say. And here's another little tuck up there on both sides. A little dangle. I have to dangle something off of there. This is the paper pack that I was inspired by, but it just changed so many times as I went along. I just, you know how that goes. Here's a little poem, a little writing paper, another tag, a piece of the original inspiration pack, a little envelope, and a piece of paper. And here's a little envelope that you can put whatever you want in. Another large piece of paper, some more samples of vintage lace. And fabric samples, and this one is real. And this is the original tag that was on it. I love that fabric. It's not French, but I thought it was pretty. And some more fabric samples that were printed. Oh yeah, this one. This has a lot of pockets and layers. And I just tucked a bunch of different things in here. And I put little tabs on them so it's easier to get. This is just a piece of cut off paper from a page, and I thought it was too pretty to toss. And there's room to journal on the back, so why not? These are little vellum stickers tucked in this little photo slide. And then it opens out for journaling space, and then just some pretty paper imagery. And this is a little tuck spot of a safety pin and a tag that I put another sample, fabric sample in. And there's some more airmail paper, surprise, surprise, more samples. I thought these are authentic French trims. They're metallic, but I don't think you could really tell, but they're gorgeous. I got them from in Michigan at Lemon Creek Fabric. There's the nicest lady. Her name is Judy, who owns it. She used to design costumes in New York, and she has some amazing sources where she gets her fabrics and trims. And I believe this is from an online source, but I'm not sure. But that's not French, but these are. I thought they were pretty, and they needed to go in here in this shallow little pocket here. And another envelope and paper clip with little French words. And another little pocket. And this is also from Lemon Creek. And that is French as well. Very old. And here's an old vintage piece of lace. And another little collaged area for little scrap papers. Little envelope with paper in it to write, to journal. And another little shallow tuck here. Check. And here's a real old vintage, a vintage piece of lace. And this is just a little paper pad. I just had extra, so I just stuck it in there. And yet another collaged spot. I didn't realize how many were in here. I kind of went overboard. And this is another airmail paper printed with a pretty fabric receipt. And this is just paper that's folded for this embroidery silk card. Tucked in with some scraps and a button card. And here's some envelope cutouts with just pieces of paper, receipts that you could journal on the back. And I can't remember, this is a freebie. I can't remember her shop. But so it had white dots, and I just punched it out with a paper punch and fed a silk ribbon through it and put this beaded sequin sari or piece of applique and a little charm, and it's turned it into a pocket for a few papers. There's just a little bow that I used as a tuck spot. And a couple little Haberdashery Sisters when they were little girls. And I thought this printable was so pretty with the embroidery and fashion. So I just folded it for a nice piece of stationery. Here's some more of that old paper. It looks old. And this is tissue paper from a friend who she wraps the gift she sends in this aqua paper, and I try to save as much of it as I can. This can come out and you can put your own image in there. There was when I was doing crazy quilting through several years, there was an online site from Carol Cree called Flights of Fancy, and this was one of her business cards. She had several different images, and I thought that would be pretty to represent the Haberdashery Sisters. And here's a vellum page I printed fabric pieces on. Just another nice piece of journaling paper. And these are, there's two in here for the two sisters. And it's just filled, it's like a little folio filled with fabric samples, pictures, and just scraps and receipts. It's their ID cards for when they had to travel to school. And so there's one in here, and there should be one in the back. Some pretty paper. The other piece of the vellum. The other piece of the pretty aqua tissue paper. Some cards to journal on. Another nice big piece of airmail paper to write on. And another flip up. And an old crocheted doily. And a little piece of embroidery from a friend. It came from a tea towel or something. And this is just an envelope that I collaged. Added a little backed and sewn piece to write on, and just filled it with paper and journaling cards. That just lays in there. Here's the other ID card. And it's got the fabric pieces, the printed fabric, and some information that she wanted to keep. And that is held in the back with a piece of vintage lace, a nice strong piece. And that is it for this journal. All I have to do is add the charms and some more tabs to the pages, and it'll be finished. I don't know how many pages, I didn't even count, but it's pretty full. Oh, and some of the dangles, are the gelatin. They call them sequins, the French sequins, but they're just like little gelatin puffs. And they're vintage, so I thought I'd add some of those. And there you have it. That's part 2 of the Haberdashery Sisters collection and their student life. So thanks for watching and have a great day. And thank you to my subscribers. Bye-bye.